For 60 years, the United States projected soft power through a professional bureaucracy designed to export liberal democracy and build global alliances. Between 2025 and 2026, the United States State Department completely reversed that strategy. Instead of backing pro-democracy dissidents against autocrats, the traditional National Endowment for Democracy model, the U.S. government began using federal funds to empower nationalist factions against allied democratic governments. This project, internally aligned with a civilizational realism doctrine, targets the regulatory and social cohesion of the European Union and the United Kingdom. It treats European digital and speech regulations as hostile barriers to American interests. The command center for this operation sits within the State Department itself, specifically the Undersecretariat for Public Diplomacy, led by Sarah B. Rogers. We will now deconstruct this institutional rebuild through its three core mechanical phases. First, administrative liquidation. Second, factional patronage. And third, regulatory sabotage. Repurposing a global diplomatic apparatus requires dismantling its existing safeguards layer by layer. The foundation is administrative liquidation, removing career civil servants and legacy programs. Next is factional patronage, funneling federal money into aligned foreign NGOs. Finally, regulatory sabotage, using digital circumvention and targeted visa bans to bypass domestic laws. Each step necessitates the next. You cannot fund foreign nationalist parties without clearing out the career diplomats first, and you cannot protect those parties from European regulators without sabotaging the regulations themselves. State-backed nationalism is incompatible with the post-Cold War liberal consensus. To build the new machine, the old one had to be taken offline. In early 2025, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, working alongside political appointees from the Department of Government Efficiency, led the charge to dismantle the legacy aid apparatus. Their primary target was the United States Agency for International Development, USAID. Through 6-week funding freezes and stop work orders, they liquidated up to 90% of the agency's 6,200 global programs, paralyzing public health and democracy initiatives worldwide. Simultaneously, the administration shuttered the Global Engagement Center and its counter-disinformation hub, known as RFME. This eliminated the infrastructure previously used to track foreign state-level propaganda, removing internal resistance to the new diplomatic narrative. The remaining 18% of USAID programs, those deemed strictly aligned with the administration's core national interests, were absorbed directly into the State Department's R Bureau, which handles public diplomacy. To staff this newly centralized hub, the White House utilized Schedule G. This is an accepted service classification created by executive order that allows the rapid hiring of policy-advocating personnel, completely bypassing traditional civil service merit protections. By liquidating the legacy agencies and removing career bureaucrats, the administration cleared the field. All public diplomacy capital was now concentrated within a single, ideologically loyal triangle, spanning the White House, the State Department, and new administrative design agencies. With control consolidated, the State Department needed a mechanism to fund its foreign allies. They found it in the America 250 initiative, originally intended to celebrate the 250th anniversary of U.S. independence. Under the America 250 umbrella, the State Department issued annual program statements, like this one for the U.S. mission to France. While ostensibly for shared prosperity programs, these specific $100,000 grants operate as the blueprint for a multi-million-dollar funding stream targeting nationalist think tanks. The legal cover for this comes from a reinterpretation of the Smith-Mundt Act. This law regulates public diplomacy broadcasting, but the administration interprets its mandate to promote American values as a legal justification to export strict U.S. First Amendment standards into foreign jurisdictions. To ensure money reaches ideologically aligned groups, new mandates like CGFA, PLFA, and CDEFA were attached to foreign assistance. Foreign organizations must cease these prohibited activities across their entire operation, even if funded by others, to receive U.S. funding. These strict ideological filters effectively starve traditional civil society organizations. In their place, the grants create a well-funded, protected class of right-wing intermediaries that are immune to domestic donor pressure. But funding allied movements is only half the battle. Those movements must also be protected from local laws. The State Department has explicitly labeled European safety laws, like the Digital Services Act, as censorship tariffs designed to silence right-wing content. To actively bypass these laws, the administration established the National Design Studio, or NDS. Run out of the White House, the NDS was tasked with centralizing and overhauling the federal government's digital interface under a mandate of aesthetic governance. The NDS's most aggressive project is Freedom.gov. Managed by the State Department, this online portal is designed specifically to host content that violates European hate speech and misinformation laws, operating under the motto, "Information is power." The portal functions as a virtual private network, or VPN, managed by CISA. This technical architecture places the circumvention tool directly on sovereign U.S. government servers. The strategic utility of Freedom.gov is clear. It provides European citizens with a state-backed tool to circumvent their own local content restrictions, entirely bypassing the digital sovereignty of the EU and the UK. By deploying sovereign technical infrastructure to actively subvert allied regulations, the United States crosses from traditional diplomacy into hybrid statecraft. It uses the tools of digital intervention to destabilize the regulatory cohesion of its closest partners. When digital bypass is not enough, the administration resorts to direct personal consequences. The State Department has begun weaponizing visa restrictions to intimidate foreign regulators. The legal mechanism is Section 212A3C of the Immigration and Nationality Act. This statute allows the U.S. to deny entry to individuals whose presence would have potentially serious adverse foreign policy consequences. The administration interprets this to include foreign officials who threaten American free speech interests. In late 2025, the U.S. officially revoked or denied visas for 5 high-level European figures involved in digital regulation, including former EU Commissioner Thierry Breton. This aggressive posture has triggered immediate international retaliation. In March 2026, Brazil revoked the visa of senior bureau official Darren Beattie after he attempted to bypass diplomatic protocols to visit former President Jair Bolsonaro in Papuda prison. Despite the blowback, the tactic achieves its goal. Threatening foreign lawmakers with personal and professional isolation creates a severe chilling effect, intimidating them into stepping back from enforcing their own national safety rules. When you combine the liquidated bureaucracy, the patron grants, and the regulatory sabotage, a fully operational transnational machine emerges, built on a hub-and-spoke model. Financial support flows from the R Bureau to bridge institutions like the Prosperity Institute in London and the Institute of National Remembrance in Warsaw. These intermediaries legitimize the U.S. agenda, hosting summits with primary beneficiaries, parties like Reform UK and Germany's Alternative for Deutschland. Hungary serves as the regional staging ground. The administration views Viktor Orban's government as the model state, utilizing Budapest as a safe harbor to coordinate grants for other aligned groups across Central Europe. This network intentionally ignores the institutional layer of the European Union in Brussels. It prioritizes bilateral relationships with nationalist factions to foster a fractured Europe of nations, directly aligned with Washington's ideological vision. This infrastructure is engineered to outlast a single election cycle. Domestically, the Department of Education has partnered with groups like Turning Point USA for the History Rocks Civics Education Tour, creating a youth pipeline to sustain these narratives for decades. Simultaneously, the administration nominated Undersecretary Sarah Rogers to lead the U.S. Agency for Global Media. This move aims to merge the vast international broadcasting power of Voice of America with her aggressive free speech export mandate. Finally, the fiscal year 2026 budget structurally hardens these changes. By cutting billions from traditional health and social programs and redirecting those funds toward patriotic education and sovereign test grants, the financial reality of the U.S. government has been rewritten. The United States has replaced the post-Cold War consensus with a centralized, state-backed nationalist machine. The reconstruction is complete, a transnational order now driven by hardened ideological filters and the institutional export of a single political vision.